Welcome to a football show Thursday edition. Nick Suss of the Tennessean and Braden Gall, and we are brought to you by Sinkers Beverages. Please get into the comment section. Please share the show. Please subscribe and review and tell everybody how great the show is. Nick, good morning, sir.
Good morning. Good morning. Hello, everybody listening.
I am so excited to, from a scientific standpoint, analyze the Titans rebrand because only the guy who talks to T-Rex experts for Ruben Bain's arm length is the guy that deserves to talk about the science of a rebrand. So we're going to do that. And I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's fun. It's really fun. I don't know if I would I guess social science. I guess psychology is a science in a way.
I love that stuff. I love that stuff. It's fascinating. Joey says, morning, fellas. Good to see you, Joey. Good to see you go forth. There you go. T-Rex emoji. There we go. Good to see all you guys. So lots of good stuff. We're also going to get into quickly your combine thoughts at the top. So we'll do a logo rebrand scientific study with a little bit of final notes from the combine. And then we're going to spend the rest of the show diving into the 51 free agents that you think the Tennessee Titans should consider in order and by position. And then we'll build the perfect Titans free agency class. So there we go. There we go.
It's fun. It's a fun show. If you guys have ideas, comment.
Sinkers Beverages, of course, is your great and amazing local sponsor that takes care of us here, keeps this show free, keeps it on the air for all of you. So make sure you support, just like you support good local journalism like Nick Suss or even Paul Kaharski. Make sure you also support good local small businesses like Sinkers. Search Uber Eats and have that booze delivered directly to your house. And that way you don't drive around after you've had a few cocktails, which, of course, is something nobody wants to do. Obviously, they have an award-winning walk-in beer fridge. A lot of that's got good craft beer in it, so make sure you check out East Nashville Beer Works, Yazoo Brewing Company, and Tennessee Brew Works. All three of them are spectacular, good, amazing quality local brews, and you can get all of them, of course, right there at Sinkers Beverages. In fact, you can have them just deliver it right to your house, which is pretty cool. I don't know if you guys know that, but you can get the booze delivered directly to your house. Sign up for the in-crowd, and I believe since it's a Thursday, of course, you all have an opportunity to go get some free tastings. Almost every weekend, they have something in the store. Sometimes it's wine, sometimes it's champagne, sometimes it's bourbon, sometimes it's multiple items. But they always have free stuff for you to kind of go try and sample and see what you like. Non-alcoholic mocktails, THC, you name it, they've got it. So go check them out. Afternoon, Jake. Good to see you as well. I assume he's across the pond. So there we go. We've got a few listeners in Europe. I expect to hear a Gazelle expert talk about Jeremiah Love's ability.
No, I'm going to talk to a matchmaker about Love.
I see what you did there. I don't think Gazelle is giving it proper. I don't think Gazelle is even respectful enough. I think it's more cheetah. I think it's big. It's like an African big cat that I think you need to go to. Okay. Let's start with the rebrand real quickly here. And basically your story was essentially analyzing the science of a rebrand and sort of why teams do it, professional sports in the United States. Essentially, we have all this noise. We have all this stuff. We kind of know it's happening at this point. We've seen the leaks. We've seen the stories. You've reported on this. PK's reported on this. Other folks have reported on this. There's the party coming on March 12th. There's the billboards. There's everything. We know something large is happening. And so the question is, like, I don't think we've spent a lot of time on this. I mean, I think we have on this show, but I don't think the conversation writ large has spent a lot of time on this, which is why are they doing it? And is it the right thing to do? And I have thought all along that the answer is absolutely it's the right thing to do, especially at this time. Your science is going to back that up. And are they doing it well? So far, they're doing it extremely well. And ultimately, all that matters is what it looks like on the field. And even then, if you lose games, people aren't going to love it. So there's really I think the start of this is that this is the right thing to do. This is the right time to do it. And according to your reporting and the science behind it all makes sense.
Yeah, if you look at there was an academic paper written in 2018. I am sorry that I do not remember the four names of the authors who wrote the article. So go click on Tennessean and you'll find them. I will cite them properly there. They reviewed every single professional sports rebrand in the United States over about a decade-long period in the 2010s. I think there were 68 of them or something like that in total, which comprises a little more than half of the big four sports leagues in the United States. And through research and reporting and studying on all of these rebrands, they found 5 common reasons that teams and presidents and marketing managers cite for why a rebrand takes place. All 5 of them apply to the situation the Titans are in now, which is staggering that the Titans can check every box.
Let's
Yeah, you want to run through them?
Let's go through them. So nostalgia is number 1 at 59%. I cannot imagine a more nostalgic play than going back to the Love You Blue Oilers color scheme.
Yeah, if nostalgia is the main reason that people cite, the color scheme is incredibly obvious a nostalgia play. It's a nostalgia play that predates Titans fandom, so it's an interesting nostalgia play. But when we get to the 4th item on this list, I think it will make a little bit more sense. Number 2
on the list is regional pride, 53%, which again, I don't know if you guys know this, but people in Tennessee, even if it's jumped the shark in terms of branding, the TriStar, that's a thing.
Yeah. It's also interesting to me that this rebrand feels like it is rooted in Tennessee a lot more than it is rooted in Titans. And when you talk about the value of a rebrand, there's 2 things you can do. Number 1, you can think of it as the short-term effect of, if we talk about fandom as a spectrum of 1 to 10, if you're a 10 out of 10 fan, you're going to buy everything. You're going to love everything. You're going to, no matter what happens, you're addicted to the fandom. And 1 out of 10 is you turn on the games when you remember it's on. If you think of the full spectrum. The short term of the rebrand is those 10 out of 10 fans are going to buy a crap ton of merchandise. And so you're going to get a very short-term boost, a short-term benefit of incoming sales because they're going to buy a lot of stuff. But the goal with a rebrand like this is to convert a lot of 1 out of 10 fans into 3 out of 10 fans, convert a lot of 3 out of 10 fans into 5 out of 10 fans, and maybe hopefully get some of those 5 out of 10s up into the 7, 8, 9, 10 range. When you are pandering, and pandering might be a strong word, but when you are...
I would call it smart.
When you are pandering to regional identity, when you are saying Tennessee...
Appealing to.
When you are talking about the TriStar, when you are getting rid of the sword and getting rid of the flames, and you're saying, no, our identity is this state. That does feel a little bit like a play to placate parts of this state that maybe have felt alienated by the Titans in the past 28 years. And that helps. That does help convert some casual fans into more invested fans.
This is what makes this so... Like, this is why from the very beginning I thought this was the exact right time to do this and the exact right way to do this. And that is because the modernization element is number 3 on your list, which is a 43%. And the thing you just said hits both of them. Like, if you can start checking boxes on 2 of the most prominent reasons people do this stuff, then it's a no-brainer. Again, making it less 1998, removing the flames and sort of making it more modernized as a logo, a little bit cleaner, a little bit more simple. I know that there's some fans that think that goes more corporate, but whatever. And focusing on the TriStar as opposed to sort of the Greek mythology of it all, that is doing both of those at the same time. That is appealing to your regional pride, making it a more prominent part of the brand, and also modernizing the logo at the same time. That's number 2 and 3 on the list of why companies or why people do this stuff. I don't think there's much more that we need to add on the modernization element of all of this. Fan feedback is number 4, 43%. This one's a little bit harder to pinpoint, but
I think there is a point we can pin, which is the Atlanta Falcons game when they first rolled out the Oilers throwbacks in 2023. I think that fans voted with their wallets. I think you guys know as well as I do. There were a lot of Oilers throwback uniforms in the stadium these last 3 seasons. There was a lot of support.
It's objectively a good-looking brand.
There was a lot of support for that branding. There was a lot of support for the Titans using that. And it doesn't hurt that they get to stick it to the Texans a little bit. I know that the organization likes doing that. But I also think that just fan feedback, if there was anything that fans voted with in this really doldrum last 3 seasons where things kept getting worse, people liked that branding. So it's not a surprise that the Titans are revisiting, at the very least, aspects of that branding.
Yeah, I got no problem with that. Rebirth, total rebirth, number 5 on the list, 37%. And I don't think this one also needs any. This is what's amazing about this. Like, it's so ridiculously obvious that the Titans are hitting all 5 of these boxes at the same time that it's a no-brainer. And I really wouldn't be surprised. I don't think this paper in particular, I'm not suggesting that this study by these guys is the one that like Amy and Burke and everybody sat around and looked at, but like I guarantee you they talked to lots of consultants about this, lots of brand experts and marketing consultants and people within their area of that work, that PR rollouts, marketing strategies, like all these things. I guarantee you they talked to a lot of people about this stuff, and almost all of them probably delivered something similar to this, which is the rebirth needs to be timed correctly around certain things. Either you are, let's use the Predators TV broadcast for a second, which, by the way, you can read all about on Lower Broad Hockey. Story coming today about the future of the Nashville Predators broadcasts for me over there, so check that out. When you go from Diamond Sports Group to Main Street Sports Group or Media Group, whatever it's called, like you're doing that to remove a stinky, nasty brand and just eliminate it, throw it in the trash can, and start fresh. That's what that is. And that's just the negative side of things. Sometimes you just want to kind of tweak it and move it forward a little bit. But when you build an entire new stadium for $2.5 billion and you're going to draft a new quarterback, like, it's the perfect exact time, more than a quarter of a century. It all makes sense. They're playing to nostalgia. They're playing to regional pride. They're modernizing the logo. They've done it based mostly on the direction that the fans want them to go. And from a timing perspective, it is a perfect time to rebirth the organization, to reframe the organization as they open a new stadium in a new era of Tennessee Titans football.
Yeah.
Good morning, Jerry.
The research will tell you that if you are timing a rebrand, do it during an all-out blitz period when there is so much change that the stuck in their ways fans are going to have no choice but to accept it.
Yeah.
And to do so when there's a new stadium coming, to do so when there is a new coach, when you have a second-year quarterback, a second-year general manager, this is about as good of a period as possible to launch the rebrand. And it doesn't hurt that the gladding and the outdoor facade of the new stadium is probably going to be put up soon. And so you will get to put all of this new stuff on the new Nissan Stadium. Yeah. It definitely doesn't hurt that you'll be able to have that symbol go up and be like, look at the logo or look at the branding. Right. And you'll kind of be able to christen the whole experience with a big new literal symbol of your rebirth, renaissance, if you want to call it. That will probably be something that is helpful for brand recognition.
Are you suggesting that a giant new logo on the side of a $2 billion business right next to a road where millions of cars drive directly underneath it and past it every single year is a smart idea from a rebranding perspective? So, yeah. Look, Stillman says consultants are typically a waste of money. I'm not necessarily talking about, I don't disagree with that necessarily, but I'm not talking about like, you hire a firm that is an expert in a certain area, whether it's PR or marketing or branding or graphic design or whatever. And generally, they're very, very good at this stuff. It depends on which ones you hire. But my point is that you would get this kind of information from no matter who, if you talk to these folks and how you talk to them, and regardless of cost or whatever, like they're going to give you these reasons. And it's pretty, I mean, like I don't want to say like it's boringly obvious that this was coming, but like I'm disappointed that I didn't expect it more like 2 years ago. It does make perfect sense. So I do think at the end of the day, the final touches of the execution, though, of it all are really what's going to matter to people. And ultimately, if you really hate some of this stuff, the winning is what's really going to put it over the top. If you win in these uniforms, people will not care. They'll adapt to it right away. So.
Yeah, there was a second study that I didn't cite because it doesn't necessarily fully apply, but it's really fascinating if you guys care about this sort of stuff, which some people in the comments don't. There was a study done that looked at rebrands of more than 100 minor league baseball teams over the course of like 2 decades.
The Trash Pandas.
And they looked at like, well, all of these rebrands, does it make more sense if you rebrand toward something obscure? Does it make more sense if you rebrand towards something associated with the what's it called? The major league team you're connected to. How
Yeah.
should you rebrand? And they did study after study after study. And the one thing that they found was that teams that rebrand and then are good in the next 2 seasons are more than likely going to have the biggest boost
Yeah.
of sales and profits. It's
Well, that's tied to good players too.
Sports are pretty simple.
Right,
Sports are pretty simple. The more good players you have, the better your team does. The more people want to be associated with your brand.
What's really funny about Richard's question here, I wonder if the Oilers color scheme will pick up some fans back in Texas, which is really interesting. So you guys know former sponsor of the show, Shotgun Willie's Barbecue, my guy Bill, great chef over there, cooks amazing brisket. He is from Houston originally, and he was raised on the Houston Oilers. He's a huge Houston Oilers fan, but he's been living in Nashville for like 2 decades. He is not a Houston Texans fan because that's not his team. But he's not a Tennessee Titans fan because that's not his team. He is the Houston Oilers. And so I'm curious if like a rebrand back to like the old teams that he loved would, even though he's not in Texas, I mean, but a guy who's sort of trapped in the middle, who doesn't feel a little bit lost like an NFL fan, I wonder if the scheme allows them, like a permission structure to maybe root for the local team a little bit more. So we shall see. Z Dean, here's my. Z Dean says T-Dot doing their best for those millions of cars not to drive past the stadium and see the new logo. First of all, I like that you know the difference between T-Dot and N-Dot. I'll give you credit for that. Okay. Quickly here, let's get into your combine reaction and just in general what the last sort of week and a half, like general takeaways, broad changes of opinion, the thing that you think matters coming out of this event after being there for a week. It can be players, it can be team related, it can be process. What was the thing you want people to realize about this event as it pertains to the 2026 Titans and the number 4 pick in the draft?
I wish I had a good overarching answer to this. We talked about this earlier in the week. I don't know. This was not a productive combine in the traditional sense, at least from my perspective. I don't know. I think that there were lessons to be learned. The workouts are the workouts. The interviews are the interviews. The types of players the Titans are interested in with who they're interviewing, I think, was actually a little bit more interesting this year than past years of who they had formals with. But I don't know. This was a really tough combine to draw big conclusions from because, as I kind of wrote about, the players who we expected to win the combine won the combine.
Yeah.
Like the athletes athleted. So it's really hard to be like, oh, I'm impressed by the thing I expected to be impressed by. It's like, oh, this chocolate is chocolatey. Like it was a combine that proved itself.
Yeah, I agree. And what's interesting is I think that's all true, and it validated a lot about specific players: Jeremiah Love, Sonny Styles, Arvell Reese, David Bailey, Ruben Bain, like kind of all the things we thought about them and we thought we knew about them were all kind of true, and even down to their physical traits. And so, I what it does for me is I'm actually like less clear.
Yeah.
Like it didn't actually clarify anything for me. I think the one thing that was clarified, and I talked about this with PK, it does feel like Carnell Tate is above the other 2 receivers.
Sure.
By most every NFL team, including the Titans. My thought on that is that Carnell Tate, when I put through my big board out there, I think it was earlier this week, like I have Carnell Tate behind almost all the other options at this point. Like, it doesn't mean he's not a really good pick, and it doesn't mean if they're picking 7th that he's not the best player on the board. He could be. But if you're looking at 4, I don't see how Carnell Tate is the option at 4. I just don't, based on math. Reese, Bain, Bailey, Love, Styles, Mendoza, that's 6 right there. I think Tate's the first time you would take Tate is at 6 or 7 if you're the Titans, and that's only if Mendoza falls. So I don't think I changed any opinions. If anything, I think it got more complicated because Styles and Love are such really good players that they confirmed what we thought, which is they are probably the best 2 players in the draft.
I will be a curmudgeonly grumpy man for months if it's Sonny Styles. Just because, like, there is no getting me out of my stuck in my ways mentality of you just can't do that, man. You just the one position you don't need help at and it's a non-premium position.
Oh, you do
And
need help. I disagree. He makes your team so much better right away. Right away.
But your team is not worse because of the like you have 2 starters that you trust at this position. You do.
Okay.
You do. Like,
all right.
I've said this 100 times and I will keep saying this. Your number 2 linebacker should always be your 11th best player on defense.
When you put it that way, and I know that's
and so
how you and PK both put it that way.
Can I trust Cody Barton to be the 11th best player on this defense? Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, I can.
No, I know.
So improving a position that already is good enough on a team that's not good enough anywhere else, to justify going and getting a really talented player, is bad roster management.
And what is the value difference between Sonny Styles and Jacob Rodriguez, who you could get at 66?
Sure.
Like if that's the position you desperately need. It's more about the fact that this is a generational talent you can't pass up. At some point, there are players in the NFL where it doesn't matter who you have at the position. It doesn't matter what your other needs are. This guy is too good to not take, period. Now, I don't think that's at 4. I don't think he's the option at 4. I think if you're down at 7 or 8 or 9 and you've traded back and you get something small in return and somebody else wants to come up to get a pass rusher or Jeremiah Love, then I think everyone's on the table. Maybe except for maybe Caleb Downs, but I think everybody's on the table at that. 7, 8, 9, I think you can still pick between, it's probably not going to be Reese, Bailey, or Bain, but you might get one of them. It's Jeremiah Love could fall. Like there has to be somebody has to fall to 7 and 8. And if not, you still get Cardinal Tate. So like I think, I'm always team trade back, but I think if anything, the clarity at 4 is murkier for me after the combine.
Yeah.
But the clarity of being in the top 7 or 8 and feeling comfortable about those guys, I think that is more clear to me, if that makes sense.
I'm also a big proponent of the generational tag can't be applied in January. If we weren't calling you generational in August, you're not generational.
Yeah, that's probably fair. Dylan Stewart is generational. Jeremiah Smith is generational, and we're doing it the year before they get drafted.
Yeah, it's like Caleb Downs, I'm fine with us saying generational because we've been saying it for 3 years.
Yeah.
I think it was premature. I don't think he was that much significantly better than like Malachi Starks was last year to justify one of them being a top 10 pick and one of them being 30th.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, that's fine. Travis Hunter, we were calling him generational since he was in high school. That's fine.
Yeah.
Sonny Styles doesn't get to be generational on February 27th. Like he's a really, really good player. He might be the best pure talent in the draft. I don't think we get to aspire or attribute generationality to him.
I think you are underestimating where he was on people's boards all year. Didn't miss a single tackle the entire season.
Until the playoff, yeah. I know. I don't think he was low on boards. I just don't think anyone was calling him generational until these last couple of weeks.
Fair enough. Stillman, I don't understand this. Cody Barton doesn't need to be the 11th best player. Cedric Gray does. I totally disagree. I think Cedric Gray is significantly better than Cody Barton right now.
Yeah,
today.
So if they're both on the field, if they're both on the field, Cedric's a little bit better. If you're saying that the base defense doesn't need Cody Barton on the field, we'll see what their base defense looks like. If they're running a true 4-1-6 or whatever the math works out to there, we will see. But
this is a good point. Guarantee that you have at least 2 DBs that are worse in the starting 11.
Probably, yeah.
Probably true. That's true.
Yeah.
No, I think to me, Cedric Gray is. I don't think he's like top 3 on the defense, but he might be 4th or 5th.
He's a good player.
in my book. Now he has a flaw in that he needs to learn how to cover and needs a Kyle Lewis type partner to run with him, which is not Cody Barton. But in a 4-2-5 alignment, which I imagine will be their alignment for most of the time, that number 5 there could be more of a large safety who plays like a linebacker down in the box, right? That fifth DB could be a bunch of different types of players. But if they're running a 4-2-5, Barton and Gray are both on the field, and I think Styles and Gray is a significant upgrade. That's all. And I don't think that's crazy to say.
Yeah. I just don't know if that upgrade helps your team in the way that upgrading other spots would. Okay. And so I will be a curmudgeon about that.
Be an old grumpy curmudgeon. All right. Anything else from the combine you want people to take away?
No, let's talk about free agents. This is more interesting.
Okay. All right. Getting into the free agent conversation here. Sinkers Beverages, everybody. Make sure you support good local businesses. They have every possible beverage option for any possible occasion. You got all kinds of family events. They have great bottles of wine. You need a nice cocktail for somebody to impress. You got lots of great bourbon. You got huge tequila selection as well. If you're just hanging around watching ball on a Saturday or watching football on Saturday morning, or you're watching college basketball, you got the tournament coming up. You got the SEC tournament coming up. You want some cold beer, make sure you check out those good local brews in that award-winning beer fridge that they have. Sign up for the in-crowd as well, because the in-crowd will give you every now and then, they're not going to hit you too hard, but every now and then you'll get like a quick note about, hey, we got this cool allocation for bourbon, or hey, we're going to have this event over here. They just do cool stuff. So make sure you check out the in-crowd, sign up there. It's their customer appreciation group, and it does not take any effort. You just punch in your number at the register. They do not use, here's the thing, I've been in the in-crowd for going on like 5 years now, I think, Nick, and I have not gotten a text message from them one time. So that's how you know that they protect your phone number. Like you give them the number, sign up for the in-crowd. All they're doing is serving you good quality products, and they're not texting you anything. They're not some political operation.
Digression. Has anyone else gotten a massive increase of spam calls this week?
Mine started about May of last year when we closed on a house.
Yeah, I don't know.
Because when you close on a house, you just get freaking calls.
I don't know why, but I went from getting 1 or 2 a month to getting 10 a day in the last week. It has been oppressive. But let's talk about free agents.
Well, no, hang on. Stillman's still in the comments here.
We don't have to. He has his own show.
He's not going to control the show.
He can talk. He has his own show.
Cedric
Gray every day.
Too small and too slow to be the lead ILB. He'd be a good number 2 next to Sonny Styles or Devin Lloyd. If he's your first guy, you suck. Well, the team sucks, Jared. The team does suck. And he is the best linebacker on the team right now before the draft and free agency. And he's a really good player. He's going to be even better as he continues to develop. He is one of the best run-stopping linebackers, despite being a little small. He's one of the best run-stopping linebackers in the NFL already today, right now.
If my car did not have an engine that worked and the gas pedal fell off, I wouldn't say, man, I need new headrests. That's what happens if you're wondering about your number 2 inside linebacker instead of receivers and edge rushers and cornerbacks.
Bustin says, when are they going to cut Snead? You want to answer that one?
I would. Again, this is more speculation than reporting, but I think it's going to take some time. I think he feels like a post-June 1 designator.
I'm trying to figure out who Coach Wills is referring to. That's why Brinker has kept his job during all of this.
I think they might be fighting about who had the
generational comment.
Generational comment thing.
I think Chad Brinker has kept his job because he's good at doing what he does, which is not football. Am I wrong on that? But he has a football background, so he can run the football, other stuff that's not football, that's related to football, that's adjacent to football. He can do it with a football mind, and I think that's a good place to put him. I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay. Z Dean, is there some sense of urgency for free agent knowing Brian Daboll is most likely a 1-year flyer and seeing what the Pats did with their second-year quarterback? Good question, Z Dean, and a good place to start here.
Okay. Let's start there.
Well, is there a sense of urgency?
I think there's a sense of urgency, but I don't necessarily know if it's Daboll related. I do think I think that the sense of urgency is this is the year to maximize the contract flexibility you have with Cam. This is the year, more importantly, to kind of invest in his confidence, to surround him with players that help him make the leap. The Titans aren't building to win a Super Bowl on Cam's rookie deal, because that would be way too short-sighted. If you can do it in 3 years when he's still technically on his rookie deal, you're probably extending him by then. Like, he's probably not on the rookie deal anymore. So it's less about, maximize the championship window now, and more about, let's get this kid good and let's get this team good. So I think the sense of urgency is, if there's ever going to be a year that is crucial for the development of this guy becoming the player you drafted him to be, you have to surround him with actual professional caliber teammates this year.
How big of a factor do they have to decide before Monday? Because again, free agency opens on Monday, the legal tampering period. There's going to be a lot of announcements for 2 days, and then of course you can sign on Wednesday. The key, do they have to make a decision on Calvin Ridley, in your opinion, before Monday going into this, or do you need to see what you can get on Monday and then make a decision on Calvin Ridley?
Yeah, I don't think they have to make that decision until. Yeah, I think they've got time.
Okay, it doesn't feel like that Alex Pierce is number 4 on your list, and we'll get to receiver here because you did not have George Pickens out of 51 players. You did not have George Pickens on here. I think is notable, and I agree with it. Number 1 on your list is Tyler Linderbaum. Number 2 on the list is John Franklin Myers, defensive lineman who was with Saleh in New York. I want to ask you about those two first.
Okay.
Cutting Cushenberry and all you have is either a rookie like a Logan Jones or Corey Levin or a converted guard. I think center and interior offensive line is clearly now their top priority because you need a starter at corner. You can throw a bunch of different like lower level resources at it. Excuse me. And John Franklin Myers, based on all the internet of it all, seems like he's almost like it'd be a shock if he didn't come to Tennessee. How much do those two guys dictate the success or failure of this free agency class?
Yeah, Franklin Myers, if you guys recall, I've been beating that drum for like 2 months now. I have. This is irrespective of the social media urgency. And to answer your question, Bustin, do I seem like the kind of guy who plans tweets? Do I have a story ready? Sure. Tweets? No.
Yeah, that's fair.
I don't make money off of tweets. I don't tweet enough to do that. I will make money off of my employment, and that is it. Franklin Myers makes a lot of sense. I think that if you go and get him, pair him with Jeffrey Simmons, you have an interior defensive line that is probably the strongest in the NFL.
Real good.
You have Jermaine Johnson on one side, and say you use that top 10 pick on an edge defender, you have turned a weakness into a strength overnight.
And Femi.
And Femi. And yeah, there is some talent to be considered here. I think that if Robert Saleh's entire identity as a defensive coach has always started with you win by rushing 4, if you have 4 really good guys you trust, that's a good way to start that identity. So I think that getting that extra defensive lineman, whether it's Franklin Myers, whether it's David Onyemata, there are some other interior defensive linemen who are somewhat interesting in this class. Franklin Myers obviously has the edge of having the Saleh connection. But if you can get that second penetrating defensive tackle to help ease the transition as you are breaking in either Femi or a rookie edge rusher at that spot, I think that really helps. And then for Linderbaum, he's just the best player in the class. Like there's
regardless of position.
Yeah, there's no two ways about it.
Is that how concerned are you about a Cushenberry, repeat? I mean, he was basically the best center in the class. And
there's a difference between Cushenberry, who was one of the 3 or 4 candidates for best center. I would have picked him as the best center at that time, but there were other players in that class that people might have argued were better centers. If you recall, we were having debates on Titans Twitter at that time because I believe PFF had Aaron Brewer graded as a better center than Lloyd Cushenberry at the time, and everybody thought that was crazy. And then Aaron Brewer has since become a better center, at least productively, in the last 2 years. So I think there's a difference between Lloyd, who everybody saw the upside of him potentially being the most projectable center in the class, and Linderbaum, who has been the best center in the NFL for the last 3 years.
If they were to go get Linderbaum and John Franklin, I mean, clearly John Franklin Myers is probably and Linderbaum are the 2 biggest chunks of revenue in all of this. If you've got whatever it is, 90 million ballpark in cap space, the 2 biggest ticket items, for lack of a better term, are going to be John Franklin Myers and fill in the blank center. Whether that's Linderbaum and you win that, you've got Connor McGovern, who's in your top 10 as well. It does drop off quickly at that position in free agency. So if you go all in on Linderbaum, you're probably going to have to outspend somebody. We're going to get to corner and we're going to get to receiver as well. We're going to get through every position here. Bustin says, what corners do we target? Big 2033 says, is Alex Pierce a fit? So we'll get to all of that stuff. And Rob Nell has a really nice layout here. Titans probably spend on signing guys like Mays, Naylor, John Michael Franklin, second level free agent corners, and Chig and Zeitler, extend Jeff, and that's it. Just that, Rob. That's it. Okay, yeah, Bustin, yes. Signing Linderbaum does kill my Logan Jones dreams. I agree with that. I think Logan Jones is a great player. I'd love to get him at 101 if I'm the Titans or the Packers.
I'm pretty sure Linderbaum and Logan Jones are the same age, by the way.
He's 25?
Like Logan Jones, I think, is 23 or 24. Like the age gap is not that different.
Okay. I'd rather spend on the proven commodity as long as the medicals check out. So I guess the question is there another position or player that should be lumped in as a big ticket item on the same level as a Linderbaum or Myers? If those are the 2 main focus, like those are the main, we're spending on these 2 guys, and then we're going to come back and in the $6 to $10 million range or whatever, we're going to find some other pieces here at other positions. Is there another player or another position, namely receiver or corner, where there's a player that you think deserves to be in sort of like that top tier big ticket money category. You have Jalen Phillips, by the way, edge rusher at number 3 for the Titans on your list of 51.
Yeah, I think Jalen Phillips is going to make the most money in free agency this year, and that is not a hot take. If you want to spend a crap ton of money and go get a guy who is an actual projectable number 1 edge rusher, he's the only one I would put in that bucket. I don't think Odafe Owe is a number 1 edge rusher. I don't think Odafe Owe is Hendrickson. It's just the age thing. Like, you're getting a guy who's going to be on his 4th contract, I believe.
31 years old.
If you count the franchise tag or whatever tag he was on last year, you're looking at a guy who probably doesn't have the long-term future projectability that Jalen Phillips does. Hendrickson might just be the most productive for 1 year kind of guy. And if you want to sell out and be good for 1 year, it's a good way to get everybody fired in year 3. But I really don't know if it's the best move for the Titans where they are at in their rebuilding process right now to favor either of these guys. If I had to pick one, I'd pick Phillips over Hendrickson. But as I kind of alluded to, I'd take Boye Mafe for where the Titans are right now and for the contract value you're going to get over any of those guys.
For what it's worth, just take this for what it's worth. Spotrac has Trey Hendrickson as the number 1 most expensive free agent on the market at a market value of $25 million per year. They have Tyler Linderbaum at $17 million per year, Jalen Phillips at $17 million per year, probably about 10 or 12 on the list down there. And then they have Odafe Owe, Khalil Mack, and Kwity Paye all ahead of Jalen Phillips. So all guys that are in that $17 to $18 million range. I cannot see them getting that kind of money. If you're asking me about those particular players. All right, I want to. So Alex Pierce is projected at $20 million. Juwan Jennings is projected at $22 million. Those numbers seem insane to me. Wan'Dale Robinson is projected at $17 million. Debo and Tyreek Hill are on this list as well. Rashid Shaheed, which is very high on your list, number 11 on your list. He's projected at $14 million. Like, I know receivers are expensive these days in the NFL, but there's not a single contract I just mentioned that I think is a good one for the Titans. I don't know.
No, I mean, if you're paying Wan'Dale Robinson that much money, or if you're paying Alec Pierce that much money, that's more than you gave to Calvin Ridley, who was a 2-time 1,000-yard receiver with an all-pro team on his resume and like different caliber skill set. I like Alec Pierce. I like Wan'Dale Robinson. I'm less gung-ho about Juwan Jennings or Romeo Doubs or some of the down the line lists. I'm not going to pick up Debo Samuel. I don't think he made by 51. I like Rashid Shaheed. I like him as a player, but
I want to. So you have Romeo Doubs at 24. You've got Alex Pierce at 4, Robinson at 5, Shaheed at 11, Juwan Jennings at 18. All 4 of those players, Pierce, Robinson, Shaheed, and Jennings, are scheduled or look like they will make more money than Romeo Doubs. I think Romeo Doubs is a better player than all of them, and I think he's cheaper. So why do you? I think he is way better than his numbers indicated in Green Bay because he's used in a group of like 6 guys that gets the ball spread around. I think he is a Devontae Adams light in terms of his footwork and his route running and his ball skills. He is a touchdown machine in the red zone. Great on 3rd and 6, 3rd and 8. He goes over the middle. He can run every route. He's not a burner. He's not going to be super overly physically impressive, but I don't know why. Like, I need you to explain to me why you don't like. I'd rather spend $12 million on Romeo Doubs than 14 or 16 or 18 on any of these other guys.
I mean, first of all, I don't trust the Spotrac contract valuations in this case.
That's fair.
I do think Dobbs will make roughly what Juwan Jennings and these guys.
Okay.
I don't think he will be a tier below them. I don't love spending this kind of money for a number 2 receiver. I know that it is kind of a consequence of modern NFL. Unless your number 2 receiver is Devontae Smith, unless you're built in that way where you have 2 number 1s and one of them has to be a number 2 by default, I don't want to give a big regrettable contract to somebody who has never been a true number 1 game changer type. And so maybe the thing I'm knocking on Dobbs is just purely, I don't ever see him being better than what he is right now. And I don't think what he is right now justifies a contract knocking on 20 million.
What if it's like 3 years, 39 million, 13 million apiece?
That's I'd accept that.
Okay, so you think he's going to get way more than that? You think all these guys are in the 15 to 18 range?
I would the 5 people we're talking about, Pierce, Robinson, Jennings, Shaheed, and Dobbs. I kind of think all of them are 15 floor.
If they're let's just say this. Let's say they're all at 15. I would take Dobbs over the other 4. Like straight up. I think somebody said in the comments, Swedish dance party. No need for Shaheed with DK on the menu. I do think there's an overlap there. Shaheed's never been a dependable sort of like pass catching receiver. He's got incredible skills, which Dobbs does not, but Dobbs is the dependable pass catcher. Robinson, look, I was high on Robinson when he came out of college. I didn't like him at the start with his 7 yards per catch, but he put together a much more productive season last year than even I expected. I am concerned about injury history with him. I think Alex Pierce is probably the most talented player in this group. I really like Jennings for other reasons. To me, he and Dobbs are similar in their skill set. Jennings is probably more of a like a yak guy than Dobbs is, but they're very similar in what they do. I think all of them add value. Shaheed's the one that I would stay away from for some reason.
I'm counting something real quick. Sorry.
Okay. If DJ Moore is cut or is a free agent, what wide receiver range would he be in? I would guess. Say that again.
1.
He'd be number 1 receiver on the board. Yeah. I tend to agree with that. Bustin says Dobbs' enormous guardian cap is an aesthetic drawback for me. I like that.
So the thing I was just looking at, there is no middle class of receiver contract right now for whatever it's worth. The $13 million contract you're talking about
doesn't exist.
There are, I believe, 25 receivers right now making more than 21 or making more than 20 a year. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. There are only 11 receivers making between 10 and 20. Like, the mid-tier contracts, the guys, 17.5 is Jerry Jeudy, 15 is Cooper Kupp, 13.25 is Khalil Shakir, 13 is Darnell Mooney, who I believe is getting released, 12.2 is Rashad Bateman, 12 is Darius Slayton, and then 11 is Christian Watson. So, like, that is if we're talking what the mid-tier of between 10 and 15 is,
okay,
Khalil Shakir is the player that gets between 10 and 15.
Okay, so fine. I was just using a number to keep them all in the same place. Let's make it 20. Like, that's not the argument for me here. I don't care. It's not my money. I don't get shit. 20 million, 22 million, 15 million. I don't care. I would take Romeo Dobbs over the other ones. 25 million for Alex Pierce. Like, the Colts have said they want to re-sign him, but that Alex Pierce is worth $25 million. Are you guys nuts?
He is so underrated that Braden's gotten his name wrong like 19 times so far.
Alec, fine.
No, it doesn't matter. My whole point here is
Wan'Dale Robinson is worth $20 million. What are we doing? I'm in the wrong business.
I agree that it is escalating value, that it's over escalating value. But what we have to look at is if that's the market adjustment, if the receivers who are worth $20 million a year are Jacoby Myers and Chris Godwin and Cortland Sutton and Michael Pittman and Calvin Ridley, who are all making between 20 and 23.
It's number one. My first thought in all of this conversation is I would much rather have Calvin Ridley than all these other names.
Sure.
I'd way rather have Calvin Ridley. And number 2, I can't believe Stillman's right on this. Go back to DJ Moore. If he's number 1, why not just take him in a salary dump trade, swapping spots in the 4th and take his $24 million this year and his $15 next year? Why not? I agree with that. I'd much rather have DJ Moore at those prices than any of these other guys.
I'd do that.
There you go. Dobbs and Io Manor, I don't know if they're any different. I do think Dobbs is a better version of Io Manor, a more experienced version of Io Manor. I think, honestly, here's what it is. If Io Manor realizes his potential, he could be a slightly similar or better version than Romeo Dobbs. That's where I'm at on that.
Here's my fault with that logic of, like, if Dobbs is just a better version of Io Manor, I would say Shaheed is further ahead of DK than Dobbs is. The gap is, you can't rule out Shaheed because he's too similar to DK.
Yeah.
And then say Dobbs and Io Manor.
I just think Dobbs can be, if you don't keep Ridley, I think Dobbs can be a like a 110 target guy. I don't think Shaheed is a 100 target guy. I just don't
No,
think he's
and
a pure receiver. Whereas Dobbs, I think, can be a pure pass catching player almost the entire season.
and Pierce, for what it's worth, is definitely not a pure 100 target guy. Like
Right.
if you want to look at the numbers last year, I believe Wan'Dale Robinson had 9 more receiving yards than Alec Pierce did last year, and
That's
he had
crazy.
50 more catches. Like Wan'Dale Robinson caught 92 passes last year for I think 1,013 yards. Alec Pierce caught like 42 passes for
Yeah.
1,004 yards. Like
Do-
it is very, very different.
Dobbs had 85 targets in 16 games, 72 targets in 13 games, 96 targets in 17 games the year before that. 25 years old, 21 touchdowns in the last 4 seasons. I know I've watched a lot of him, so I guess I have a lot more familiarity with him. But if the Packers were in a goal line situation right now today, or they are in a critical 3rd and 6, there's only one player on that team I want Jordan Love throwing the football to, period. And it's Romeo Dobbs. That's how I'm gauging my value of this player. It's like that's the guy you throw the ball to when you need to.
Last word on this, and then we'll talk about other positions that I think are actually a little bit more interesting, hopefully. I am conditioned to be the type of person that wants the thing I have never had. Rashid Shaheed is something the Titans have never had. That like pure game-breaking field stretcher, dynamo with the ball in his hands, gonna beat you straight ahead type guy. Been a long, long time since the Titans have had that kind of big play player.
I mean, look, I get that he is real fast and that he just won a Super Bowl. He got 90. I guess he had 92 targets this year. I didn't realize he had 92 targets this year.
He's a more volume player than you think.
Yeah, but 41 targets the year before. I guess he only played 6 games. 7. I mean, look, his targets per game are higher than I expected. When I think of Rashid Shaheed, I feel like I feel like it's missed potential to some degree. That the speed is tantalizing. The thing that you're talking about is extraordinary, and yet it's never really been maximized or used for some reason. And normally in the NFL, if you've got something like that, it gets maximized. It gets maximized on punt returns. The Titans don't need that, unfortunately. So, all right, we can move on. Here's what I would say. Every time I do this exercise at this position, whether it's in the draft with those 3 guys, whether it's in free agency with these guys, every time I come back to I'd rather have Calvin Ridley in a 2nd-round pick. I'd rather have Calvin Ridley and fill in the blank at number 35.
Omar Cooper.
Yeah, right. Omar Cooper would be a great one. Casey Concepcion could fall there. Any number of guys. I'd rather have Calvin Ridley and a receiver at 66 with what they have coming back. And I think that would be a better receiver room. So they're not taking. I don't think they're taking one at 4, and I don't think they should spend more than $20 million on a receiver. That brings me back to Ridley every time. All right, let's go to corner here because we've had some people asking about corner. You have Jalen Watson at number 6. He's 27 years old. You got Jamal Dean at number 9. Eric Stokes at 12. You've got Cordell Flott at 21. Reek Wolin at 22. Alante Taylor. So in your top 25, you have 6 different corners. There's some different types of players in there.
Yeah, and then down the line, Nashawn Wright 36, Rasul Douglas 38, Akella Witherspoon 45. There's 3 different types of corners to me, and I think you're going to need to sign one of each. You need to sign a true long-term outside boundary corner. You need to sign a boundary corner who is a veteran who you're going to bring in on a 1-year deal to be the adult in the room. And you need to make a decision about the slot, whether that means using Kevin Winston there and going and getting a safety, or whether that means going and getting somebody like Alante Taylor, or whether that means drafting a slot. Keontae Scott at 66 could be somebody that we've talked about a lot in that position.
How about Kyle Lewis as a combo slot corner nickel safety linebacker?
I like is Chandler Rivers the kid out of Duke, the cornerback?
Duke, yeah.
I like him as what the 49ers did with Upton Stout this year, of just a smaller nickel corner who can play every position.
Sorry, I didn't mean. I've been over talking to you a lot today. I apologize. There are a lot of really good nickel corners in this draft.
Yeah,
a lot of really good nickel players.
Yeah,
of different varieties.
So the reason Alante Taylor is lower on my list just fundamentally comes down to the fact that I think the need for a boundary corner is more pronounced and more obvious than nickel corner, because again, worst case scenario, you sign or draft a safety and you put Kevin Winston in that nickel role, which I think he could fit in. You also have Marcus Harris, who is still around, who I don't think he's starter caliber quite yet. We will see how good he can be in the future. I think that last year everything was so dire that seeing a small flash of anything made us seem very excited. But
we call it the Daryl Baker syndrome.
Yeah, I still think we have to remember that's a 6th-round pick. You don't necessarily build around 6th-round picks who make their debuts in week 14. But I like Jalen Watson. I think Stokes and Flott are the better investments as a number 2 corner if you're trying to draft a number 1. I think the only number 1s on the board are Jalen Watson and Jamel Dean. And we'll see if Jamel Dean even would consider playing for a non-contender at this point in his career.
Yeah, I like Watson and Dean too. I think if you're going to spend big, I'd rather spend big on one of those two guys than go spend on Wan'Dale Robinson. Like, I just think I'd rather get a true. Otherwise, what I think is going to happen is your strategy at corner is like, we're going to throw 6 number 2s at it.
Yeah.
It's going to be, like Winston is a number 2 slot. We're going to have a number 2 corner drafted in the 3rd round, a number 2 corner drafted in the 4th round. Then we're going to go sign a number 2 corner. Like, it's just, I feel like it's going to be a bunch of number 2 corners, which again could be a massive upgrade on what they were last year.
Yeah. No, I there's a lot of options for that. The 2 easiest things to find in free agency are 31-year-old cornerbacks looking for 1-year deals and 31-year-old edge rushers looking for 1-year deals. Like, that position, I put Akello Witherspoon as the option toward the bottom because he's the one who played with Saleh for a long time. But there are a ton of guys who you'd recognize of like, oh yeah, I remember him. He was pretty solid 4 years ago. Like, there needs to be somebody like that who is your number 2 outside corner, who is on the downswing of his career, but is still reliable enough to play the position. Yeah. I've been saying Cordell Flott a lot since like November. I don't think people recognized how good of a season he had last year. But Stokes I think is the higher ceiling, higher upside player if you're picking between those two.
Again, take this for what it's worth. Spotrac is way off, probably undervaluing here. Flott is at $9.5 million. If you look at that number, Jamel Dean is at $13 million. If you look at Jalen Watson, also $13 million. Those both seem very low, I feel like, for that position in particular, especially if they think they're going to get number 1 money. I don't actually see Alontae Taylor on here, so that seems kind of strange.
The free agent lists are always weird. Like, for example, Eric Stokes is not in NFL.com's top 101 free agents list. He was number 1 on ESPN's list of top cornerbacks available. God, it is really? A weird, maybe not ESPN's proper list, but what's his face that I use?
I mean,
Mike Clay. Mike Clay's list. He was number 1.
He was not good in Green Bay.
No, but he had a really good year last year in Vegas. He bounced back pretty well.
He did. All right. So any other line? We didn't really go down the list of linemen. Certainly, you've got Zeitler pretty high on this list at 27. So that's a guy that the Titans expect to bring back. We'll get to Chig and some other positions, but you got a lot of guards on this list. There's not a lot of centers outside of those top 2. What are some of the names at interior offensive line that you think they should be looking at?
Yeah, after Linderbaum and McGovern, I believe the next best center on the list would be Ethan Posick, who just missed my top 50. Yeah. I like Ethan Posick. If he is your center, I don't think necessarily that is a downgrade from Lloyd Cushenberry, but I don't necessarily know if that is an upgrade either. I don't think you would cut Lloyd Cushenberry if your plan was to go get Ethan Posick.
I tend to agree with that.
Who, funny enough, Ethan Posick was Lloyd Cushenberry's predecessor at center at LSU. Like, they are from the exact same tree. So that's why I didn't put those guys on the list. At guard, there are a ton of options. I know there's going to be a lot of scuttlebutt about Elijah Vera Tucker because of the Saleh connection. That might be true. I try not to just value familiarity as the only resource here.
Well, wouldn't that be the same value for Zeitler too, though, in a strange way? Because part of the reason I like Zeitler coming back, and I think Paul has said this, which is you don't want to be changing 40% of your offensive line with a bunch of unproven guys. Like, if Dan Moore's not your answer long term and J.C. Latham needs a little stability next to him, having Zeitler next to Latham allows to sort of benefit both players.
Oh, I totally agree. But familiarity and continuity are different words.
Sure.
So, like, Elijah Vera Tucker presents familiarity. Zeitler represents continuity. Well, and I think continuity is more important.
I agree with your to Saleh and the coaching staff, I agree. I meant to the offensive line. He's familiarity and continuity.
Sure.
With those guys. If you go get Linderbaum, I think all of this is off. I think you can then come back and get whatever guard you want if you want to replace Zeitler. I think that's the difference there. I think.
So some of the other names, if you guys are curious just about guards, Daniel Falele from Baltimore has been a Pro Bowler once, but he had kind of a down year last year. What's his face? David Edwards is probably the guy who's going to get the most money on the guard market this year. John Simpson. I like Jemery Sawyer, but I think he's probably more of a swing lineman at this point. He's probably a supersized version of what Oli Udoh did for you last year. There are some guards. There are some interior linemen. They'll be able to find a starter on the guard market this year for sure.
I tend to agree with that. All right, I'm going to do some other positions that didn't get represented in your list very much, so we can kind of move around here. And that is Kevin Byard and Reed Blankenship, both on your safety list. Those are the only two safeties, 23rd and 41st overall on your list. Honestly, I don't mind Reed Blankenship. He can play center field. I think that could allow you to do more with Kevin Winston. Only linebacker on this list is Quincy Williams. There's some decent linebackers available, but I guess if we're talking about not investing in Sonny Styles, then spending a lot of money.
My biases are my biases. You guys don't have to love my list.
Quarterback, they need to probably get a veteran, and I saw Ed in the comments, Levis and a pick swap for Brian Thomas, who's in. Hilarious. Kirk Cousins, Tyrod Taylor, Mitch Trubisky are on this list. You've been on this for a long time. They need a veteran backup. That does not define Will Levis. So obviously, if they can move the former pick and sell him to somebody who thinks they can fix him and turn him into a star, I still think he's got a ton of talent and upside. So somebody's going to be tantalized by that ability, even if you're just getting a 6th or a 5th or whatever for him. But you've got Cousins doesn't. I kind of like Cousins. I don't mind having Kirk Cousins here. I think that's dependable backup.
I think all three of these guys would be good mentors for Cam. I've talked myself into Trubisky way too much from all of the unnecessary research I did into Matt Nagy back in January. I think Mitch Trubisky might have gotten a bit of a raw deal with how poorly he is thought of compared to actually how productive he was. Yeah. But Tyrod would be my number one. It's very strange. Very strange. Tyrod has played with Robert Saleh, Brian Daboll, and Gus Bradley.
Wow, look at that!
A lot of familiarity on this coaching staff for Tyrod Taylor. Kirk Cousins is the best veteran free agent, unless you're picking Russell Wilson, who I doubt Russell Wilson would take a backup role with Brian Daboll for the second year in a row.
I don't want that personality in the locker room either. Cade Otton, Chig Okonkwo, and Chris, by the way, one of the best names, Manhertz. Those three guys at tight end. You've got a handful of running backs: Kenneth Walker, Travis Etienne, Tyler Algier, and Brian Robinson. Actually, all four of those running backs I like a lot. If you can,
I like them a lot too.
If you can get them on the cheap, but I don't know if they're moving on Pollard.
I will ask you this: are any of them better enough than Pollard to justify moving off of Pollard and paying more money than you're paying Pollard?
I think Walker is significantly better than Tony Pollard. I think Travis Etienne is better than Tony Pollard. I think Robinson is a different type of player, but gives you what Pollard gives you. And I don't know if Tyler Algiers can be the full-time feature back, but man, I love what he gives you between the tackles, short yardage. Like, I love how physical he is. I think the top two, if you're looking to replace Pollard and upgrade, I don't have a problem with Walker and ETN, but that's eating into your budget here that we're going to finish it with here on the show. So.
If we're extending the car metaphor I did earlier, I think fixing the running back room is like fixing your AC. It's definitely something you want. Like, you don't want to drive in a car that doesn't have AC, but it's still not as pressing as fixing the engine.
It's not as pressing as the engine, but in Tennessee, it's a need, not a want.
It's a need, not a want, yes.
All right, so quickly here, Sinkers Beverages, Tennessean.com. I want to finish with this, so please support us. Please support good local businesses. Listen to all the other great shows across the 440 Sports Network. Read all of Nick's stuff. Listen to all the other guys on the platform, men and women, of course. And thumbs up on YouTube, please. Notifications, share the show, etc. So give me your perfect class here. I want you to walk me through where the resources go. They've got about $90 million. How much of that should roll over? Where should the resources go in terms of this broad picture here? You've got Jihad Ward, Sebastian Joseph Day, Kevin Zeitler, and Chig on the sort of re-sign group that are all in this list. Give me your perfect class, buddy.
All right. People do the math on if I'm going over 90 million on my budget here. I'm going to go position by position, off the dome. This is not prepared. This is not some sleek show. You're not watching one of those shows that plans things. Quarterback, I am signing Tyrod Taylor as my backup. Running back, I am going and getting Brian Robinson Jr. on a short-term deal. Wide receiver, I am adding. Let's say I'm going out and getting Wan'Dale Robinson and a draft pick. Tight end, Manhurts and somebody. Like, I'm just signing a blocking tight end. I'm not going out and getting another
no
primary receiving. This is altruism. Chig should go somewhere where he's going to start. The Titans are not going to use him in the way that Chig is probably pursuing and probably deserving of being used. If you're signing him to be your number one and you're sidelining Gunnar Helm, yeah, I think Chig's a better receiver than Gunnar Helm right now. But you got to develop that guy at a certain point.
What's ballpark for Taylor in your mind?
Which Taylor?
Tyrod.
Oh, I don't know, 4.5 to 5.
I had 6 written down, so I'll do 5. What about Robinson? 7?
Yeah, you could be a 6 or 7. Sorry.
I put 20 down for Wan'Dale Robinson.
Yeah.
How much for a blocking tight end? $3 million?
Oh no, that's veteran minimum. That's
okay.
Yeah,
we'll go $2 million then. We'll go $2 million just for the sake of it. Okay, keep going.
We're playing perfect class. Mm-hmm. Offensive line, I am bringing back Zeitler and Udo, and I'm going and getting Tyler Linderbaum. You can bring back Corey Levin if you want to.
Can you get Udo and Zeitler for $10 million total?
Probably.
Okay.
Maybe no. Let's call it 12.
12. Okay. What's Linderbaum going to cost you? 18.
22. Like, he's going to have a big deal. Defensively, I will.
Okay, you want me to give you your total?
Sure.
All right, you're 24. You're at about 6. You're at about 65 million spent already.
Okay. Let's say
42 plus 24. Yeah. You're up about. Actually, you're about 70 million on offense.
Yeah. If we need to part ways with one or two, we'll move past it.
Okay.
I'll take Franklin Myers up front, and I will bring back.
What's he worth?
What do you think? Like 17?
Yeah, I was going to say between 15 and 20. So let's go 8. Let's go 18, and then Ward is probably what? Couple mil?
2 or 3.
Okay, so let's do 21 for the two of them. How about that?
I am leaving linebacker.
That's alone. You're at 91 million now.
Okay. Cut Calvin Ridley, I guess. I'm kidding.
You'll make the 20 million and let Wan'Dale Robinson go somewhere else.
I'm just like, in my perfect thing, and then you go out and you use whatever money you have left on some cheap corners to fill the room. Rasul Douglas, Akella Witherspoon. You go get these guys.
7-8 million ballpark.
Yeah,
you're up to about 100 million. So
yeah, but also your average annual value is going to be higher at the end of the contract than the beginning of the contract. So for guys like Wan'Dale Robinson, we understand that if
we're ballparking this is
if Wan'Dale Robinson's making 20 million a year, he's going to make like 10 million in the first year and a lot more later on, and there will be bonuses built in. We know all of this, but yeah, I would do all of those things. I don't necessarily think that the Linderbaum thing. We'll see if they can pull it off.
Yeah, I agree with that.
But
I agree with that.
We're saying pie in the sky. More realistically, if you shave 5 to 10 off what you're giving Linderbaum and give. Oh, why are you trying to knock over my microphone, Cat?
Come on, Cat.
Yeah, realistically, if you're saying McGovern instead of Linderbaum, that shaves some money off of it.
Saving your money there. Ridley, by the way, is due 26 this year, 27 the following year. All of that to me is better money than what's in this free agency class, in my opinion. That's still a little bit more than it would be. If you cut him, you save yourself $13 million this year. So that is a corner and a tight end, or a corner and a guard, or a corner and a backup edge, or maybe just one really good corner. So you're saving yourself $13 million this year, but then you save yourself $22 million the following year. So there is a big boost the following year if you cut Ridley, but I still think he's better than anything you're going to have on this list. So maybe Pierce is a better player, and I'm wrong on that. That's possible, but I think Calvin Ridley's pretty talented. So, but
Calvin Ridley's just got to bounce back.
We are not right. We are not diving into the nitty-gritty detail of deferred money and guaranteed money versus annual salary value. We're just sort of ballparking this and saying, could you get 2 corners, a running back, a tight end, 2 offensive linemen, a pass rusher, a backup quarterback for basically the ballpark of what we're talking about? And I think you can.
And I think that the easiest way to say this would be, I believe you can afford to get 3 contracts on the books this year that you would consider big.
like over 15.
Yeah, big contracts.
So,
and if you want to include Peter Skoronsky in this list, which we've got to factor that money in somewhere.
It sounds like what you're saying is Tyler Linderbaum, Wan'Dale Robinson, and either Watson or Dean as a start. So you have a starting corner, starting receiver, and a starting lineman that are all in that 15+ range.
Or if it's John Franklin Myers, it's John Franklin.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Okay, so maybe it's John. See, this is what I would like to see them do. John Franklin Myers, Tyler Linderbaum, and pick your corner. Forget about receiver. Draft, develop, keep Ridley. That's how I would do it.
You're taking a big gamble on Cam Ward's development there, but I do also think that long term that is a very smart approach.
Well, but what you do, and this is the trade-off here, right? If you do sign a Jalen Watson or Jamal Dean, you've pushed corner down the board and almost guaranteed yourself a receiver at 35, and to some degree. And so I think that's where I like the idea of a young receiver developing with Cam Ward, and you're not sacrificing Cam Ward. Like if you told me they have Omar Cooper, Eric Iomanner, DK, and you add Calvin Ridley to that group, that's as good a receiver core as you've seen in this city for a long time. So I don't know, man.
I don't know if I'd say.
And you go get a receiver later in the draft too. Who? I mean,
look. I think
Julio Jones didn't play.
Look, I think that what you just described. Let's say your receiving room is Calvin Ridley, Omar Cooper, Eric Iomanner, Chim DK. Congrats, you have a 2, 2 3s, and a 4. Good job.
That's better. No, Alex Pierce is not a 1. No, Alec Pierce is not a 1.
I'm not saying he is, but he's probably a better 2 in 2026 than Calvin Ridley is.
Maybe I would rather have John Franklin Myers than any of them. Is how I look at it.
I also agree. All I'm saying is what you're choosing between is the team and the individual, and the most important individual on this team is Cam Ward. So how do you do it? How do you match? I don't know.
Joe says I'd rather have cut Ridley and draft 2 receivers. Why limit yourself? Why can't you keep Ridley and draft 2 receivers? If you keep Ridley and draft 2 receivers, you can spend that money on Linderbaum, John Franklin Myers, and a corner. Then you can draft a nickel later on. There's tons of good safeties in this draft as well. Like you have to put the two together. I want a receiver at 35. I want 2 corners later in the draft. I want a pass rusher at 4. That means you need to fix some problems, which is Franklin Myers, a center, and probably at least 1 starting corner in free agency. You don't have to draft a starting, or you don't have to sign a receiver in free agency to have a starter. You have starters.
No, we talked about this back in November, December, and we'll keep talking about it now. Free agency theoretically should be where you fill the non-premium positions, and the draft should be where you fill the premium stuff.
No, that's right.
I just don't necessarily. I know that we're being told there's a lot of depth at receiver in the 2nd and 3rd rounds. My belief is there's a lot of depth at receiver compared to a weaker draft class, maybe not compared to actually these being great receivers. I think that these guys, there are a lot more receivers who are receiving grades between 30 and 60 this year than other positions. That does not tell me that the receivers are great so much as it tells me there's not a lot of depth in this draft class.
I think wide receiver 1 is your pick next year in the 1st round. Yeah. It's in the top 10. It's Jeremiah Smith. It's Cam Coleman. Your wide receiver 1, your generational talent is next year. You take your pass rusher this year. You supplement more young receivers in the draft. Because I could go down. I sort of disagree with your point, but I also kind of agree with it as well at receiver. I think if you give me Chris Bell or Jacoby Lane or Ted Hurst or Zachariah Branch or Antonio Williams or Omar Cooper or Casey Concepcion, I like all those guys between 35 and 66. And so I'm good. I like the receivers later in the draft. Somebody mentioned Stribling in the comments out of Ole Miss. I like him. Colby Young out of Georgia. We can keep going. Malachi Fields out of Notre Dame is a later pick that you could go get. I just think there's receivers for wide receiver 2 so that you have a bunch of 2s going into next year's draft, and then next year you take your superstar in the top 10. That's how I would strategize it. Take your pass rusher, sign your corners, draft your corners, etc. So, all right, we're running late here. Do appreciate all you guys in the comments. Excellent draft class. Or excellent free agency class. You've got Tyrod Taylor, Brian Robinson, Wan'Dale Robinson, a blocking tight end to be named later, Kevin Zeitler, Oli Udoh, maybe Linderbaum or McGovern, and then possibly you got John Franklin Myers, Jaheed Ward, and then maybe a corner in there too. So 3
corners, I just don't know which ones.
Yeah, right. Some I agree with you at the 1 year, $6 million prove it deal for a veteran. Like, I think there's a lot of those guys for sure. So, all right. Jeremiah Smith next year, Malachi Tony in 28. There we go. Cam Ward's never got to play with Tony, but pretty good player down at Miami. Okay. All right. Anything else? Tennessean.com, pay for good journalism. What you got coming up?
Yeah, a lot of free agency coverage. I'll have some other stuff that you guys can read about that's still coming out of like stuff I've saved from the combine and other feature stuff. And also, I don't know if you guys have heard, but there is a surprise announcement being made on March 12th which is the time we usually do this show.
Yep.
So I don't think we're going to be doing this show at the appropriate time next week. Might be evening. So if you guys want to, change your schedules around, I do not think we will be doing this show live from the Pinnacle. I would imagine it will be a little bit later in the day next week.
Okay. I'll get with who's going to host that show for you and explain that to them. Spring break, baby. All right, go to Sinkers, everybody. Appreciate you guys listening. Appreciate you guys hanging out. Have a great weekend, and somebody will talk to you next week. Peace and love.